question. Is it possible, based on Genesis 1:20 and 24, that animals are a product of evolution, not man, but animals? That's a great question, Cole. I appreciate the thought that you put into that. I've kind of asked myself that same question, and let me just say this: I don't believe in mindless evolution, as Charles Darwin and others would suggest, that we went from the goo to the zoo to you, and that through a series of fortuitous accidents, here we are. Okay, I certainly don't believe that, and I don't believe that all of the animals evolved one from the other. But what is interesting about Genesis chapter 1, verse 20, God said, let the waters abound with abundance of living creatures. Let the birds fly across the earth, across the face of the firmament of the heavens. All right, so we see that God. It says specifically, God created great sea creatures and every living thing that moves, with which waters abounded. So God clearly is the source of the creation. But as to the means, the how He did it, it's very, very general. Let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures. So could there be some kind of evolutionary process? What does the word evolution even mean? It just means change. Okay, that's all it means, is to change. When we think of biological evolution, there's generally a sense of there's a slow, gradual change. But interestingly, there's something called the Cambrian explosion, and the idea is that, well, we had animals that were just slowly, slowly, slowly evolving. One amoeba into the next one, and then something like, I forget, what was it, 100 million years ago or something, you had this boom, right? This Cambrian explosion, right? And suddenly there's all these animals of every different kind, and we don't know how that they all just showed up at once, but there it was, right? Boy, it sure sounds like the Bible to me. It sounds like God said, "Let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures, and let the birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens." Right? It sounds exactly what the Cambrian explosion is basically saying. So Darwinian atheistic evolution cannot allow us to spend too much time on this Cambrian explosion, because it kind of ruins their whole narrative that, over hundreds of millions of years, slowly, 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 one thing slowly evolved into another until here we are. All right. The evidence does not support that. But on the other hand, the Bible does not give an exact detail of how everything came about. And could it have been that there maybe there were some changes, some micro evolution. We say micro evolution, that there were small changes that we still see today, right? We still see the Galapagos Islands. We see the finches that Darwin so studiously observed, and he made some good observations that the beak of the finches changed over time, and then they changed back. Right? That's also interesting. So God did build into the system of our biology that our bodies can adapt. There can be small changes, but we never go from being, a frog to a horse, right? That's where you have a real disconnect. That's where I would absolutely disagree with the idea of evolution, but that there may have been small changes within species. And again, by species, I would really say that let's say more kinds. Okay, so let's talk about the dog kind, or maybe the wolf kind. Okay, dogs and wolves are the same kind, even though we call them different species, and they are, but they're still the same kind. There's different. They're horse. We have the horse kind, but there are different species within the horses, so that they don't all look the same. They're not all the same size, but they're all the same basic body type. Cats, right? Same basic body type. So there's one kind, presumably one kind of cat, but there has been speciation within that kind. And so maybe God allowed that to happen. And the language of Genesis 1:20 and 1:24, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creepy thing and beasts of the earth, each according to its kind. And it was so. Again, I don't think that that we could rule out that possibility. But again, we never have frogs turning into horses, right? That's what evolution would suggest, is that frogs eventually turned into horses. And that's where I think evolution utterly fails. And the Bible really comes out shining, not surprisingly.